Hi, I'm Nisha DeGaring, host of Good Things Utah, and I've been a longtime supporter of Todd's Belief Cast. I hope you find inspiration in the courageous stories shared by the amazing people Todd features on his show. The guests serve as shoulders for us to stand on, allowing us to see a little further and cultivate belief in oneself. Remember, you have the dignity and power to change. I encourage you to keep striving and believing in yourself. Enjoy today's podcast.
I want to take a moment to express my heartfelt gratitude to the incredible sponsors of the BeliefCast podcast. First, Craig from Craig Swap and Associates. If you need an attorney, he's your guy. Trustworthy, compassionate, always there when you need him most. Next, Wasatch Recovery, the greatest university on the planet, transforming lives one day at a time. Sandy from Minky Couture, the creative genius behind the most comfortable blanket you'll ever wrap yourself in. Comfort like no other. The visionaries behind Thread wallets. These wallets redefine style and functionality. Dave Philippi from Micro Plus, pushing the boundaries of nanotechnology and scientific research to bring us cutting-edge supplements for optimal health. The Ralphs and the Debenhams, creators of Mori Nutrition and Calm. Because if you're struggling with sleep, feeling stressed, or can't focus, Calm is your answer. Special thanks to the award-winning pianist Paul Cardall for his beautiful music that brings inspiration to every episode. And finally, Gab Wireless, letting kids be kids and giving parents the peace of mind they deserve. Right now, Gab is offering $25 off any device to new customers with no contract required. That's $25 off any Gab smartphone or smartwatch. Just go to gab.com/belief. That's where you'll get the best deal. That's gabb.com/belief. Thank you to all these amazing sponsors for supporting the BeliefCast podcast and empowering us to continue spreading positivity and inspiration to the world. And we are back. This is Todd, your host of Todd Inspires BeliefCast. Thank you so much for being here week after week. Can't thank you enough for believing in me and supporting me. And I'm so grateful for my sponsors, as you just heard, and also for my good friend Paul Cardall for his music that he allows me to use at the beginning and the ending of these podcasts. It really brings a good feeling to the entire episode. So thank you for all of that. I have amazing people on this show all the time. I really do. It's just like, people are astonishing. I really believe that. And today is going to be no different, guys. You're in for a really inspirational time today. We have Elysia Butler. I said that correctly, right?
You did. You did. Good job.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, Elysia, we're so grateful to have you. And man, you're doing such good things. And I can't wait to have our listeners, learn more about you and also hear all the great things that you're doing.
Well, thank you. I am excited to be here and to be able to share, hopefully some things that people can walk away with and incorporate in their day-to-day lives.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm going to just give a little background. I won't go through all of it because we want to hear it from you, but a little background. Elysia is a passionate advocate and a proactive mental well-being and suicide prevention, especially among the youth. Did I say that right? I think I kind of butchered that. But hey, I'm not perfect. I butcher it all the time. You're the founder of Hope Hero Foundation, where you're dedicated to equipping young people with the tools of resilience needed to become heroes of their own story. I can't wait to hear more about that. Your Hope Hero Foundation has made significant strides under your leadership, reaching thousands of kids and family. And you do hero camps. You have a growing ambassador program that certifies teens in suicide prevention. Beautiful. Your work's been featured on multiple platforms, TV, podcasts, TEDx. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
That is really cool. And really, you're just an advocate and passionate about mental health and making sure, especially the young kids, are getting the things that they need. You're an author. She handed me 2 books of hers right here. I've got them in my hand. Becoming the Hero of Your Own Story, 52 Tips to Teach Today's Teens, and then Becoming Superheroes. It's a children's book, right?
Yes.
So beautiful. So thank you for those.
You're welcome.
I know you're a mother, you're a wife, you're a best-selling author. The list goes on and on and on. But why don't we start and tell us a little bit about your upbringing and your childhood and where you grew up.
Yeah, well, I grew up in Kaysville, Utah.
Okay.
And that's actually where my family still lives.
Gotcha.
I am the youngest of 5. I have 4 older brothers. So
Wow.
I really had to, be up with the boys.
Yeah.
They already had things going, and I just went along for the journey. And I do think that shaped so much of being able to really work hard and persevere and push through things.
Yeah, I'm sure they toughened you up a little bit, right?
They did.
Yeah.
They did.
Let's play tackle football. Okay, give her the ball. Let's get her, Yeah, no, I can imagine. So you're the youngest. What was it like as a child? What were you into? What was it like in being around your family?
We were very involved in sports.
Okay.
My older brothers did wrestling, soccer. So from a young age, I was always, there cheering on my brothers with their wrestling. My mom would always be yelling stuff, and I just mimic what she was yelling, even though we didn't know.
Yeah.
And I played soccer. In elementary, I actually played on elementary and junior high. I was one of 2 girls on a boys competitive soccer team.
Okay.
And then I played soccer through high school and in college at SUU.
Really?
I did.
That's
yes.
amazing.
Yeah.
Soccer's a great sport and just overall so good for you, right? The physical piece, but also the confidence building. Do you feel like playing sports was a kind of a way to build some confidence in yourself?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was a huge piece of learning those leadership skills, of learning, those tough lessons in life.
Yeah.
With soccer though comes brain injuries, which is where I did get my first one in college. And
So let's talk about that if you don't mind. Tell our listeners what happened.
Well, I was probably, I'm going to say I was 19. 19, and we were playing Weber State. I don't remember what happened. I blacked out.
Oh, yeah.
But back, 20 years ago, you didn't do anything with it.
Yeah.
So I played a couple days later in another game, and I actually messed my knee up. And there is actually a correlation between brain injuries and then lower.
Really? I did not know that.
Yes.
That's the first I've heard that.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And so I look at that, and I think that's how I was able to heal from that.
Okay.
In my adult life, though, we go back maybe 7 years ago. I was still playing soccer, and I received another concussion with it. I headed the ball. The guy behind me headbutted me. I blacked out, and I went off the field. But that competitive nature, I can't be seen as weak, right?
Yeah.
I went back in, and like a fool, I headed the ball again, and I didn't notice things until the next day. I was a teacher. And so it was the next day in my classroom, I got to school, and I just told my first period class, I'm like, you guys, I don't think I'm okay. And I started slurring words and stumbling had to be picked up from that. And I had told he's now become a good friend. He's a concussion specialist at Towner Clinic.
Okay.
And I was like, I'll give you 2 days. I missed 2.5 months of work with it.
Wow.
And
so it was that severe?
It really was. When you have the compounding ones, then it's easier to get it again.
I've heard that if you get one, it's easier to get the second and the third and the fourth. And correct me if I'm wrong. If we simplify it, is a concussion basically a bruise on the brain? Is that right?
Yeah. So your brain, you can actually get a concussion without having an impact with something. If you suddenly stop, so your brain hits, inside of the skull.
Okay.
And so I had those two, and I know this is crazy. We are specialists with concussions, but I was in a car accident just over a year and a half ago
My goodness.
and received my third traumatic brain injury where it hit the back of my head, and that's where your vision is.
Yeah.
So I couldn't open my eyes for 2 weeks straight. I couldn't open them. I ended up having to do intensive neurotherapy, vision therapy, chiropractic, all sorts
All of
of
it.
stuff for, it
Jeez.
was a good 10 months straight of full time
Yeah.
getting my brain back to where, I shouldn't say where it was because we always shift.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
But the brain's neuroplastic. Like you
Yeah.
can relearn things and reprogram and rewire, even if you've had these traumatic
Yeah.
experiences. And, I'm kind of proof of that. I wish I wasn't, but I am.
But how grateful that we can rewire, right?
Yep.
Because if not, who knows? You probably wouldn't be sitting here today,
No,
right?
because there is that piece of it where you've got to choose
Yeah.
out of the dark that you're in.
Okay.
Right.
Yes.
And I think sometimes people just let those hard things that have happened and be like, well, this is what I'm dealt with. This is
Yeah.
it. I can't do anything about it. And I believe that there can be things that you can do. We can't change the past,
Right.
but we can learn to not let the past continue to determine our present
Yeah.
and to determine who and where we want to go in the future.
Yeah. I love that.
Right?
Right. I love that.
Yeah.
Obviously going through what you just explained to us, the listeners, probably very hard on you, like, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, all of the above.
Yes.
I know this is a big question, because through all of just that, what are some of the takeaways? What are some of the lessons that you've learned that maybe have helped shape you through this?
I think one of the big ones, and that I'm still learning to do, is to give myself grace with it.
Yeah.
Because, I used to be able to do this or have capacity for all of these things. And I've just learned that I can't actually do all of the things in the same way that I used to do them before. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't
Yeah.
always have to look a certain way. And learning to ask for help from other people.
Yeah. Sometimes that's hard, right?
It's hard.
To raise your hand and go, I need some help here, you know? Yeah.
Well, and I always like I talk with kids that I've taught, my own kids and kids
Yeah.
in the programs that I'm in now, like asking for help is a sign of bravery and courage.
It sure is.
It's
Yeah.
kind of letting those walls down and being a little vulnerable and going, you know what?
Yeah.
I need some support.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this alone and I can't do it all
Yeah.
alone.
Okay, so you have the Hope Hero Foundation that you've created, which is, I can't wait to hear more about it. But whenever there's something big like this, there's always a story that led up to it. So I'd love to hear how this all came about so our listeners can understand what you're passionate about.
All right. And there are really three main catalysts that have gotten me to where we are right now with it.
Okay.
And the first one begins when my oldest was just 7 years old and he attempted.
Oh, really?
7 years old.
Oh, at 7.
Uh-huh.
That's pretty, again, it's a pretty rare thing, right? For that age to do something like that, right?
And especially back when this was, he is now 20. So
Okay.
we're going 13 years ago.
Long time ago. Yeah.
I think it's more prevalent now just with changes
Yeah, I
and
think you're right.
kind of the awareness of different things going on. But back then, yes, it was very rare. My background, my degree is in psychology and English. My mom is a counselor.
Okay.
And so really it wasn't until my second was born that my mom had said, Leash, this is kind of, this is how babies were supposed to behave. Right. And I didn't know it was a first time mom going through some of that. So as I finished some of my psychology reports, I studied my own child.
Yeah. Okay.
And I was teaching at the time when he was 7, but when he attempted, that was when I knew that we needed to get some more help and support outside of what we were doing.
Yeah.
And at the end of that year, I left the classroom to save my own child's life.
So to spend like 100% of your time with him.
Yep. And I shouldn't, as a mom with 3 kids at that time, 100% with one child. No, but the intention and the focus on making sure he knew he mattered, that he knew he was worth it. And so
by you quitting something that you were passionate about, obviously you love teaching, but that also sends a powerful message like, wow, my mom's willing to do that.
Yeah.
Fair, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And it shifted him. It truly did. One of the biggest things that we utilized was the 5 love languages of children, implementing that.
Okay.
And every single night, lots of times people and parents, we go, well, I just need this one thing, right? And thinking it's going to happen overnight.
Yeah.
It won't happen overnight. It took about 2 years before I thought, I think my child likes me, right? Like there were times where it was very, very difficult. And the more he pushed against me, the more I chosen to love him. So the times when your child is just, you're so angry and upset, what Gary Chapman calls it is their love tank, right?
Yeah.
It's not getting filled. There's a disconnect somehow in how you are showing that love to the child.
Okay.
And so lots of times as parents, it's not the big one thing that you do. It's the little things done over and over again that honestly nobody sees you doing.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's not the highlight reel.
It's the little things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes.
Absolutely those little things.
Wow.
And so that little boy is now a 20-year-old man, and he's living his dream of being a kicker for a college football team now.
Really? Right on.
Yes.
That's so amazing.
Yes. And so he really was the first for me to go, all right, okay, I have this experience. And then we fast forward to 2016, and my sister-in-law dies by an overdose.
Wow.
And she was a second mom to my kids.
Yeah.
We joked about joint custody. Our boys are actually best friends. Those 2 little boys are still best friends today with it.
Jeez.
And when you're in that club and you lose someone to their mental health, it changes you.
Yeah.
Like you won't be that same person you were before.
Yep.
And I talk about this sometimes with resilience, right? Lots of times people think resilience is bouncing back.
Yeah.
Well, resilience can't just be bouncing back.
Yeah.
Resilience has to be bouncing forward and then moving through the challenge, that moment, whatever it was that you had to make that choice in going forward, right?
Yeah, well said. Yeah, I like that.
And so that is really losing my sister-in-law. Like that was a huge catalyst for the change that I did. And so at this time, I'm back in the classroom and I shift my focus that those kids, and I primarily taught 9th grade English.
Okay.
So that those 14, 15-year-old kids knew that they mattered above any academic success, any behaviors, anything, that they were worth it.
Wow. How, I love that, that you're doing that. How desperate our society and our kids need that message, right?
They do.
It's so great that you're doing this. And obviously there's a reason behind why you're doing this. What led to you finally going, okay, yes, I'm helping my own family right now, and it means so much to you, to where you decide, you know what, I want to take this a little further because of that need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I got involved doing the suicide prevention in the schools from 2016 to 2022.
Okay.
And
was that the Hope Squad?
it was.
Yeah,
So
okay.
within Hope Squad, I did that. So I was 3 years at one school, and then at my last school at Shoreline Junior, I had it as a class.
Oh, okay.
So I really fought to have that because when you can really
Yeah.
teach those kids, that's when they internalize it, and then they can go and teach others, and it sticks.
Yeah.
It sticks.
Okay.
So I did that in the schools. So the third catalyst that got me to leave the schools, and I call it the most beautifully tragic day of my life. It was Veterans Day, 2021.
Okay.
And so at the school, we had the flags lined, had veterans coming in and greeting the kids. Well, one of those veterans was my father, Douglas Cannon. And so he came in. That morning we greeted the kids, we said the pledge in a few different classes, and that afternoon he came back into my advisory class to talk to them. Right? It's Veterans Day. What better way than to bring in an American hero, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And so I actually had 2 classes in there. My sister-in-law was subbing a class. She brought her students in. My mom came. I actually was teaching my middle son at that time, and a lot of his friends there, and my niece. So my dad was talking and asking kids about their heroes, telling stories about being in Vietnam and all of this stuff. And he looked over at me and he just goes, "Leash, I'm feeling a little dizzy."
Oh, man.
And I just said, "Dad, do you need to sit down?" And so he sat in my chair, and those were the last breaths that he took. Like sometimes I share this story and sometimes I don't.
Well, thank you for being vulnerable and sharing this. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. And in those moments, I held my dad with his last breaths. And I call it sacred because for me, like a sacrifice is to make it sacred, right? Like that somebody's life, somebody's something means more than just that experience. And my dad was actually an English teacher as well.
Okay.
He was an administrator. I actually have my master's in educational leadership. That was the path I was going to go down.
Yeah.
And this moment happens. And I distinctly remember and hear it like as if it's today, that it's, Leash, it's your time to do something different than how it's been done before.
Okay.
It's time to fly. Like this, I don't know if you can see my butterfly necklace here. This is the last
it's beautiful
gift that my dad gave me
to you.
And so really the foundation is dedicated to my dad, who was an American hero, my hero, and really taught me and empowered me to be my own. And then in turn, now I am teaching these kids to do that for themselves.
Man. So therefore the tragedy, but yet the blessing that kind of blossoms from that.
It does.
Yeah.
Right. And so hence we have hero with the hope hero, right? So having hope that it can be better, even if it isn't what you thought it was going to look like.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you again. Sorry you had to go through that, but thank you for sharing and being vulnerable with us today. That means an awful lot. And I know people listening to this are, I'm sure, touched by you sharing that as well. And then, so you have this profound moment and you decide, okay, I'm going to do something about this. I'm going to do something different.
Yeah.
Which obviously led to the Hope Hero Foundation, right?
Yeah. Well, and I didn't know it was going to lead to this.
Yeah.
That book, the first book that has the pair of red Converse on it, I wrote that while still in the classroom. And so my last year teaching after losing my dad, I wanted to be able to give kids some tangible tools, some ways that they can be their own hero. It follows, I don't know if you're familiar with Joseph Campbell and the hero's journey. So all of what I do is based on that as a framework for suicide prevention. We know how to rise above adversity through the framework of the hero's journey. Every Marvel movie, every book, it follows this pattern. So why can't we use it for mental health?
Yeah, why not?
And so that is what we're doing is I teach the kids the pattern of the hero's journey and give them pieces of the curriculum I've created called the Hero's Compass, right? So that they have their tools along their journey. So when they get to those hard things, when they find themselves in that cave, right? And going, I can't do this. I don't know how to get up. And sometimes you're going to have to borrow someone else's light, right? That mentor's light who believes in you.
Yeah. So beautiful. Wow. I love that. For those who don't know, can you explain why the red shoes, why the color red? I mean, obviously you got your red shoes I got on. They're awesome.
Yes.
I put a little red on for you today.
I saw that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And originally I didn't know why with the red. So the publisher had come back with a black pair. And I go, they got to be red. And what I've learned more with the red, and if you just think about red, right? It's passion, it's love, it's courage, it's bravery. Also, red is the root chakra. So when we are connecting and where these are shoes on your feet, right? It's connecting to the ground that with every step that you're taking, you're capable of being that hero in your own story, right? Like I didn't know. I think God was directing me with things that he knew before I knew. Right?
Yeah. Wow, that is amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. And it makes a lot of sense too. And I'm sure obviously you explained this to the kids you're dealing with and how do they respond to this when you're sitting down with these, a group of kids and you're trying to teach them that they matter and to help them even be an advocate and a mentor to someone who's struggling? What does that look like?
It's quite amazing to see and to watch because these kids just want an adult, want someone to believe in their capability to lead, to do something, to have a purpose, right? And so a lot of these kids that are ambassadors in my program have been through hard things. They've either attempted themselves, they've lost friends to suicide, there's mental health problems and concerns within their family, they have anxiety, depression. They've kind of come on that other side and they want to be part of helping others not have to go through the dark of what they experienced, right? And so a lot of these kids, they want to come and be involved because they know what it's like, right? And that's how we heal, is through connection, right? And talking and letting people know that I see you, I hear you, you're not alone. Like, hey, I can't solve it for you, but I'm here alongside you, right?
I love that. There's such power in just talking about it, right? The late Mr. Rogers said, if you can mention it, you can manage it. So just by mentioning it, hey, like you said, one of the things you learned, you had to raise your hand basically and say, I need help, right? And again, it's because just the power of telling someone. And I love that you equip these kids who have been through it themselves, most of them, who are now in a position to help someone else who might be going through the same thing. What a beautiful thing.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're trying to do, because I want to prevent teen suicide.
Right.
And if we're going to do that, we actually have to start before they're teens.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why the other book that's for littles,
Yeah.
right, has
Yeah.
come out. And
Love it.
so we've kind of simplified the hero's journey. You can talk to a child about heroic journeys, talk to them about Lion King, Moana,
Yeah.
any of the movies, and you can say, well, what called them on an adventure? What hard things did they have to do?
Yeah.
Tell me, why did you like that?
Mm.
Right? And then
Yeah.
you can connect it to their life.
Yeah.
And when you can teach them to watch their own life as a movie, like you would just zoom out and go,
Yeah.
okay, well, if you're the character, if you open this door, what does the next chapter look like?
Yeah.
Or if you open this one, what do you think could be happening?
Right.
Right? So teaching them
Yeah.
to look at it with that. And there's a study, I think it's by American Psychology Association,
Okay.
that it came out in 2023. I can send you the
Sure.
details
No,
with
you're
it.
good.
But it states that when you view yourself as the hero in your own life, you're more resilient and you have better overall mental well-being and happiness in life.
Wow. That's
And
amazing.
so knowing that, then let's equip these kids at a younger
Yeah.
age so
Yeah.
that they are more able to handle some of these things, maybe in a better way than getting so angry or defeated and upset, thinking there's no other option.
Yeah. Wow. So what do you find, as you're trying to teach these kids, what's some of the biggest roadblocks that you maybe run into, like that you've noticed?
I think for these kids is that so many of them are wearing masks, and they're the ones actually intentionally hurting others because they've been hurt.
Because they're hurting.
Right?
Yeah.
We all know this saying, hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
And so if we can just kind of take a step back and teach the kids that it's okay to not be perfect. You shouldn't be perfect. Like it's a facade.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so learning and teaching them that it's okay to be you.
Yeah.
And it's okay to forgive yourself, and it's okay to forgive others. Like one of the things, as you asked this, what came up, because I've had a lot of kids bring this up, and even adults,
Yeah.
is that it's really hard to forgive someone when they hurt you in the past.
Yeah.
Right? And
Sure.
when I'm dealing with teenagers, they're having experiences from elementary or junior high where so-and-so was mean,
Yeah.
right? And they hurt them. And they're not letting that person grow into who they now are, even though they've changed,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah. Okay.
we've all been bullied,
Mm-hmm.
and most of us have been the bully as well,
Sure.
even not knowing that we were, right?
Yep.
And so that's one of the things that honestly I'm working with some of our ambassadors, that they didn't necessarily want to join the program because of something someone said to them in elementary, and they're now in high school.
Yeah.
But I get that.
Yeah.
Like, because I remember those mean things
Totally.
those boys said to me
I know, right?
that I
It's
carried
like-
with me,
Yeah.
you know?
I know.
And so it's, even adults, we need to remember this. Like, that person, like, may not be the same, even though they hurt you.
Yeah.
We got to let go.
Yeah. And I think if we realize, I've heard this once, and where if we could walk in the shoes of every person from the time they were born up until, the current time, or when they maybe did something mean to you or whatever, we would have a better understanding, like, oh, this is why that hurt person is hurting others. And then if you saw what they went through that hurt them, you couldn't hate them.
Right.
You'd go, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
Now, we don't get that picture. We don't get that story in our head. But if we can maybe even almost like remember that, like, you know what, that person's been through some things you don't even understand.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, if we can try to exercise compassion in those moments,
Yeah.
easier said than done.
It is.
But it's so important. Like you said, it's a way of, like you said, moving on and kind of letting go of that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and talking to the kids about this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if this generation can forgive 10 years sooner than what I did,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Like
How great would that be?
Right? Because it unlocks those barriers you put on yourself
Yeah.
of these things that you thought were true that other people may not have even remembered saying.
Yeah. So you've obviously seen a lot of great things through your work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And watching these kids, you know, maybe go from really sad and depressed, and now you start to see them thrive some more. And like, what's one of the biggest moments or greatest moments you've witnessed? I know it's a big question, but what stands out when you look back through the last several years of what you've been doing?
I think seeing these kids who have been in the program, who are now starting to set up their own events,
Yeah.
and utilizing this framework, these lessons, and teaching other kids. You know, like I have stuff that's set up, but when I see some of them going and setting things up on their own, just this week we had an ambassador at Viewmont High talking to all of the sophomore classes about the addictions, the struggles
Sure.
that he's been through, and opening up and wishing someone could have done that for him, right? When he was going through that.
Right.
We have a young adult and a teen down in Lehigh who have set something up for elementaries. They're going to be talking to 150 elementary kids.
Wow, that's amazing.
And you know, one of the ones that her name is Layla. She is 12. She might have just turned 13, but she's setting up a whole campaign and assembly and fundraiser at her school. She came to one of the events that we were doing. We do a free resilience and suicide prevention community class at Red Barn. So it's every other month we do that there. And she came and she goes, I didn't realize until tonight what we are doing. Because she had been to, you know, the parade and the boat party and
right,
like the fun stuff that we do. But that next day, she heard one of her classmates say something, and she went up to him and said, "Are you okay? Are you thinking of hurting yourself?" And he said, "Yeah."
Ooh.
And so she was able to get him the help that he needed and the support that he needed from adults and in the building, and parents were notified, all of that. The ripple of one child, a 12-year-old.
Yes, right.
These kids are seeing what we are not seeing in our own kids.
Yeah.
Right? Like, because they're with them.
They're with them all the time.
They're with them.
Yep.
And so these kids are going to be the ones who change mental health for each other.
Mm-hmm. I love that. You know, I think back, you know, if I was back in high school and I was really struggling, I was in the height of my addiction, and, you know, there was no one to talk to. At least you felt that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love that, knowing that, you know, that there's this advocate, this kid I could walk up to who's, you know, assigned to kind of be there for me.
Mm-hmm.
Just knowing that, I mean, I can imagine how many people are now getting help just for that reason, knowing that there's someone there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the beauty of what you're doing. It's amazing.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, because, again, I just look back and I just felt like, you know, when I was struggling, there was no resources. There was nowhere to turn, at least in my own mind. Mm-hmm. And I get that we can all get clouded there, but like you said, today's a lot different.
Yeah.
And when I think back of your story and everything you've been through, I mean, you've been through a lot, obviously, but it's almost like you had to go through that in order to put this together.
Yeah.
Do you ever look at it that way?
Absolutely. Like I was led down certain paths. Like I believe that we have fate and we also have choice.
Yeah.
Right? And depending on which choice you make determines on where the next path is going to lead you.
Yeah.
Right? Like had I not gotten my degree in psychology and English.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Had I not stepped into the classroom to do that and teaching Joseph Campbell's hero's journey
Right.
for, nearly 14 years.
Yeah.
Teaching ninth graders with Romeo and Juliet, and 2 teens take their lives, right? And all of it was, not necessarily predetermined, but it was a plan that I could choose into.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And it really, I know that this is my purpose.
For sure.
And I know that I'm not doing this alone. And people and these kids and others, like including yourself, including some of our mutual friends,
Yeah.
like they're guided and put into your life
Yeah.
for a season,
Yep.
and they have a reason to be there,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And we don't necessarily know what that's like. And sometimes I think if I would have known I had to go through all of this, I would have been like, yeah, not for me.
No, thank you.
Right?
I'm not signing up for that.
Yeah. And sometimes still in it, it's like there's all these unknowns.
Yeah.
But that's the part of the hero's journey. Most of your life and your experience is spent in the unknown.
Yeah.
And you just got to take one brave step.
One brave
right?
step. Yeah.
One brave step.
Totally. Yeah, I'm a huge believer that life happens for us.
Mm-hmm.
I look at, I took my first sip of alcohol when I was 11 years old, and that just opened up the whole door of what I went through. And I can look back now, and I'm so grateful that I took that drink at 11, because I get to sit here and talk to you today.
Yeah.
Like, that led to this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And everything you went through led to this moment, and despite some of the hard things, especially being there, for your father in his last breaths, but yet, like you said, it was the roughest day, but also one of the best things that happened, because it was like this awakening.
Yeah.
I don't know, just that when I
was.
think about that stuff, it kind of just blows my mind.
Well, and I think we need to
You know?
stop and think about those things,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because as we talked about in the beginning, sometimes people let those hard things stop them
Right.
in their tracks
Yeah.
and say, and honestly, like, I'd probably be justified in being an
Totally.
alcoholic on the couch doing nothing,
Yeah.
because it's been hard.
Yeah, like what she's been through.
And but other people have been through those hard things too. It's different. Like, we may not have been through the same things, but a lot of times we've felt the same emotions.
Right.
We understand grief and pain and loss and sadness and loneliness.
Yeah.
And we
right.
understand that within each other.
Yep.
Our experiences don't have to be the same.
Right.
To have that connection and to be able to learn from each other with it.
Yeah.
And so I just,
Yeah.
like I love that too, because all of those experiences, like this is your life, right? You get this one life. What are we going to do with it?
What are we going to do?
What are we going to do?
Wow. Well said. I love that. I'm going to ask you something kind of off the cuff here. What do you love most about yourself?
What do I love most about myself? Honestly, what I love is my ability to show up and let other people feel better because they've met me.
Yeah. Ooh.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I want someone, whether it's, just for a minute or for a year or for a lifetime, to feel better about themselves because of being around me. Like, I really have always had that empathetic, caring heart. I have, and I think that's one of my gifts.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And you do. Yeah. I mean, I feel better just being here with you. I really do.
Well, thank you.
I mean that. You bring a good vibe. You got a good energy about you. I mean, obviously, we have mutual friends that, we're talking you up pretty good. But, but again, I just love meeting with people like you, where your heart is like, where can I make this world better? And having that mentality, I mean, those are the kind of people I want to rub shoulders with, because and then it inspires me, especially in my maybe tough days, that, hey, there's people out there that are going through tough days, but they're still out there doing some good things, and it's inspiring to maybe pull me out of that dark moment, I guess, you know? So I don't know. I love your vibe.
Well, thank you.
I love the red shoes, the red coat, the red scarf. I mean, all of it is so
I have
cool.
it all.
You
and
do.
it wasn't like that wasn't planned. Like it really just,
Yeah.
it evolved and it turned into this movement.
But I love I love the symbolism of it. Yeah, it's awesome. So if there's someone right now listening to your voice and they're in a dark place, they're struggling and they're tuned in right now, what would you tell that person?
I think I would say that I don't know your story right now. And I don't know if anyone ever will know the full story or understand everything that you've been through.
Right.
But you are worth it. You are not alone.
Yeah.
You matter. Reach out for help from someone. Asking for that help, it truly is a sign of bravery and courage.
Yeah.
And most people do not ask for the help that they need.
Right.
So I'm going to flip it on the other side of that. If you're listening and someone's name has come to mind, I want you to reach out to that person.
I like that.
So when someone comes to your mind, they come to your mind for a reason.
Yeah.
Like work is being done through us.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
when you get that, that's your indication, that's your sign that someone else is asking for help. And so you take that step to just message them, hey, how you doing? You've been on my mind.
Yeah.
Do you want to go to lunch? Do you want to go to coffee? You want to go to a movie? Just stop by someone's house when they come up. That's a whisper.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Wow. There's the challenge, folks. Let's do it.
Yes, let's do it.
No, I think those are great words for those who are maybe tuning in. And we have people tune in all the time who are struggling. So thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that. I think that really hits it right on the head there for all of us. You know, one more thing. I just want to educate our listeners. They probably noticed you said the word attempted, and you left it at that.
Okay.
Can you explain just to educate, because I think the more education, the better. Why did you say it that way?
Why did I say it that way? Well, lots of times with an attempt, and when people say this, it's a suicide attempt.
Right. Yeah.
Is what we are talking about. Yeah. And there's many ways that people do this. And in the mental health world, we don't necessarily talk about the ways that people make those attempts.
Yeah, I got
and
you. Yeah.
So it is kind of one of those that you don't elaborate on some of that, and that's part of the safe messaging with all of it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Perfect sense. Yeah. And I've known that, but I'm sure a lot of people are tuning in and maybe didn't know that. And I think it makes a lot of sense, and it really does kind of help protect.
Yes.
And I think that's great. So thank you for clarifying
You're
that.
welcome.
Yeah. If people want to reach out to you and get to know you better and learn more about the Hope Hero Foundation and get involved even, or whatever they can do, get your books, all that, what would be the best way for them to do that?
So you can go to the hopeherofoundation.org.
Okay.
And it has links to the books. The books are available on Amazon. Nice. Our ambassador program really is the heart of what we are doing. Okay. My husband, we just had our gala, and what he said that night, because I had lost my voice. I was telling you I'd lost my voice. So I was like, hey, you gotta I'm glad I
came back.
Yes. And he had said in his speech, he said, these ambassadors are the heartbeat. They're not the backbone. They are the heartbeat of our foundation. Because without them, we would just be a foundation. But with them, we are a family who is changing lives and making the world better
Yeah.
So really the ambassador program, it is the heart of what we're doing. And whether you're a teen, young adult who wants to get involved with that, we have an application. We are wanting to expand this. We are looking for leaders to be able to lead this. And by a leader, there's not an age for a leader.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
these young ambassadors, they're leaders.
Oh, they are.
Right.
And they're changing the statistics.
Yeah.
They're changing it and bringing hope to their peers and to the adults.
Yeah.
It's magic. It truly is magic. And I
love that.
It's incredible. So I'm just grateful that, for all of the hard things that I had to go through to be able to grow this, right? To have the team, to have these teens who believe in this and see that it's making a difference.
Yeah. Cool. That's amazing. Well, I'm going to put the links to all of that in the show notes. So when, people listen to this, they can click right and get right to it, get right to you and see all the greats that you're doing. And I really do encourage everyone listening today to reach out to you and to get more involved, or at least, again, educate yourself of what's going on out there. And if you're not sure if you can pitch in, but, send this to your family and friends, and there's going to be someone that needs this and someone that probably wants to get involved. So let's make sure let's spread the good news here, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So I just want to thank you for just who you are, standing up for the kids that are struggling. I mean, you're a voice out there of hope. And I think back in my high school days, and I barely made it through it. And someone like you back then would have been so profound for me. So I'm just so grateful that these kids have this. And I know you want to expand it and more, and so I'm going to help you do that. So any way I can help you, let me know. But I can't thank you enough for being here today.
Well, thank you. You're welcome. And thank you, because it takes us working together.
It does.
To really rise.
Yeah. Well, I'll do my best to promote this, and whatever I can do to help you, I'm here to help.
Thank you so much, Todd.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
Elysia Butler, thank you for being here. Hope, did I say that right? Yeah. The Hope Hero Foundation. You'll have the links in the show notes, guys. Please, again, I encourage you to reach out. And if anything, just get familiar with what she's doing, and it'll spark some ideas in your own mind on how you can pitch in and help. Thanks again to my sponsors, and thanks to all the listeners for tuning in week after week. I love you so much. Thank you for your time, and until next time, love all you guys. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.